NetJets. This is Learning to Dad.
I'm the cool dad. That's my thing.
With Tyler Ross.
What I do have are a very particular set of skills.
I'm gonna have fun, and you're gonna have fun.
Welcome to Learning to Dad. I'm Tyler Ross. My guest today is Jesse Itzler. Thank you so much for being here.
My pleasure, man. One dad to another.
Yeah, absolutely. And actually, with that in mind, I know I could give this incredible delivery of introduction to you, but rather than that, I'd like to hear what you think your dad would say about you. How would your dad introduce you?
Well, my dad's 89 years old, and my dad happens to be upstairs in my house right now. Maybe I'll go get him.
I bring it on, man.
Introduction.
Yeah.
I don't know. You know, he's a dad. He's a true old school father. So I'm sure he's proud and would have good things to say. And I think he would say that even if I, broke all the rules and did everything wrong. So he's just 100% unconditional.
Yeah, I believe that to be true. What's your time been like with him since he's with you now?
Always good, man. Always a cherished moment. So 89, starting to drift a little bit into, I gotta yell a little louder to get his attention and keep things short, but I'm lucky.
Yeah, that's awesome. Well, so the point of the conversations that I like to have is, of course, getting a little bit of feedback on how to be a dad, do's and don'ts. And I find that entrepreneurs, people like yourself, tend to be very reflective and thoughtful and deliberate in the way that they look at their past and plan for their future. And so I can't think of anyone better to have this conversation with. I admire you an awful lot. You've got 4 kids, right?
I do.
And what are their ages?
I have, they're all under 10 years old. I have 3 boys and a girl, a daughter. My oldest is 9. I have 2 almost 5-year-old boys and a 3-year-old daughter.
So the middle 2 are twins? Oh, cool. What's it like having twins, like with their personalities among the 4 and with each other?
Fun, a lot different. My oldest was an only child for 5 years. So, and then all of a sudden we had 2 little guys come in. And, they have each other to play with and entertain themselves and learn from and challenge each other and compete with each other. So it's a completely different dynamic, but it's a lot of fun. A lot of fun.
Bet they're the best. One of my favorite things that I know that you're involved in is, I think you're calling it your 50 at 50 skills in your 50th year. I'd be curious to know if any of those skills you've gotten to participate with your kids or teach them.
Yeah. So for my 50th birthday, I made a list of 50 things that I always wanted to learn how to do, but I hadn't learned how to do them. Everything from free diving to riding a motorcycle to learning how to drive stick shift to backgammon and ping pong. So my kids I bring a coach in to teach me those skills. The thought was once a week. It hasn't turned out to be exactly once a week, but yeah, so my kids get to watch and experience, and they've joined in some of the ping pong lessons, but I'm getting certified in scuba with my 9-year-old. So he's doing that with me, and that's an amazing thing to be able to go through that with him and then be able to take him out and celebrate the fact that we went through this process together is amazing, especially at such an early age.
Yeah, what do you find his experience has been like? That no doubt it's character building, but like, are you seeing kind of the changes in him coming along with you?
Yeah, so he's actually ahead of me because he's taken several classes and we're starting our joint classes now. So we haven't actually done it yet together, and I'll have to catch up to him. He's a quicker study than I am in the water, so we'll see what happens. But yeah, no, I mean, it's not just the actual lessons and carving and that kind of one-on-one time, which is so important when you have 4 kids. To give, to give each child a little bit of one-on-one time is so important. But also the preparation, reviewing it at the family table, letting my other kids see that we're going through it. I mean, there's a whole mushroom effect to what's going on. So I'm really excited about it. Hopefully I'll be able to do something with each one of my kids.
Yeah, I'm sure you will. You tend to put your mind to something and then execute it. So what's one of the skills that you're going to be coming up on that you're excited about just for you?
Honestly, every single thing on that list, I'm really excited about. They're all things that I've always wanted to do. So, I spent a lot of time thinking about, like, in a perfect world, what would I want to learn? Mm-hmm. And I mapped out this list. But I've already learned how to ride a motorcycle, which was really fun. I had no idea. Got on that thing and I was like, what? I took a free diving class. I went from holding my breath from literally only 35 seconds underwater to 3 minutes in one session. Wow. So I've seen enormous gains very quickly. It just reinvigorated my desire to want to learn. Like when you're a kid, you're a sponge. When you get older, you focus on one thing. Tyler, you're in real estate, so you focus, you become an expert in real estate, and that's where a lot of your energy is. And a lot of the other disciplines or hobbies or whatever, you get bottlenecked and they suffer. Maybe not suffer, but they don't expand because you're focused on real estate and the law and selling and buying. So this has just kind of reinvigorated my desire to learn, and it's fun. I feel like an 8-year-old.
That's really cool that you would say that. I had a guest on that said, when you have kids, you experience the same experience except through their eyes. So it's almost like you're having it for the first time, which actually one of your great quotes is getting your foot in the door and figuring out the rest later. Parenting.
Yeah. My foot's still in the door. I'm never going to be out of the door. I'm still learning. Yeah. I'm a gigantic work in progress. My best friend's Google. I Google everything, every disease, every sore throat, every symptom, every situation. Yeah, it's just, I said to my mom the other day, I don't know how my parents raised 4 kids in an era where there was no cell phone, where there was no internet, where, if my mom went to get groceries and left the 4 kids home with my dad, and my mom went and took our only car and went to get groceries, and my dad needed to get in touch with her. He had to wait 3 hours for her to get home. If she ran out of gas, there was no way to call and say, come pick me up. If she forgot something at the supermarket, she had to go back and drive another 20 minutes to go get the bread and come back with the bread because she forgot it. And then we were all stuck because I don't know how. Here, I can just say, like, Sarah, come home, my wife, come home, I need this, or so-and-so, I Skype them, they want to see mommy. It's just such a different world. And, to raise kids is hard enough, but to do it, I think 3 decades ago was even harder.
In those 2 different contexts, like the way that you were growing up, what do you think is an advantage that you might have had that your kids won't have on account of that time difference?
I had to learn how to deal with being bored. I had to be, everything is very scheduled now. There's access to, at any time, you can go on video games or this or that. I had to create my own games, create my own fun. It forced me to be creative, mm-hmm. and it forced me to, I think I was forced to deal with disappointment. I think a lot of kids today, everybody makes a team, nobody gets cut. There's all this anti-bullying thing, which is great. Mm-hmm. Don't get me wrong.
Of course.
But there's a pattern of kids being pampered in a sense that they just don't learn how to deal with disappointment. And I got smacked with disappointment left and right as a kid. And that, I think that's builds grit. I think it's a really good, those are good lessons to get at an early age and figure out, how to navigate.
So I wonder if your coaching course is kind of doing that for adults. And then on top of that, do you feel like you have to kind of conjure opportunities for your kids to build that grit? I'd imagine teaching adults is different than teaching your own kids.
I think the biggest challenge with being a parent for me is just recognizing that my kids are on a completely different journey than I was on. If I wanted to play basketball until it was dark out in my backyard, and my mother would be like, you have to come in, it's bedtime, but my kids want to play Minecraft or Fortnite. I can't get mad about that. They're on a different trajectory than I am. So that's been a bit of a challenge. But, it's very hard for me as a parent to, when I see something, if I see a ball coming that's going to hit my son, it's very easy for me to put my hand out and grab the ball. Mm-hmm. And my father let the ball hit me in the face, whatever the ball was, whether it was, an F on a paper because he knew whatever it was. He didn't jump in front of me. And he helped me. He showed up at everything. He supported me. He encouraged me, but he didn't catch the ball that was going to hit me in the face. It's hard for me to not catch that ball. I have resources. I'm growing up very differently. My kids are growing up completely differently than I grew up. My dad owned the plumbing supply house. It's just a completely different scenario. So my parenting has to be different. My concerns are different than the concerns my parents had. And so I didn't have anyone to teach me that kind of stuff. So I'm trying to figure it out as I go. And I get a lot of it wrong.
Yeah. Nobody's perfect. That's why we have these conversations to talk about how to be better as humans, parents, for our kids. So
I think also, if I could just say, everybody's kids have quirks. They all have challenges, they all have glitches. Anyone who says their kids don't have a glitch or something, I mean, maybe there's a handful of kids that have it all figured out, but most kids have glitches, and everyone's glitch is different, and everybody's quirkiness is different, and everyone's fears are different. So how we parent one child is different than the other. It's just a fascinating thing. All four of my kids are so different. And the approach, although like the philosophy might be the same, the approach has to be different. One of my kids is very sensitive. He likes to talk it out. One of my kids, if he's going to cry, he'll go. He doesn't want to see him cry. He'll go. It's just a completely different dynamic, and you got to figure it out. It's hard, man.
Well, do you relate to any of your kids in that level and thinking that like that kid, that was me when I was his or her age?
Yes. I mean, bits and pieces come out of both my wife and myself and our children a lot.
Yeah.
And, it's fun to see.
So what's a quality that one of your kids has that you're particularly proud of?
I wouldn't say I'm proud of it, but I see it all. One of my sons is very stubborn. When he puts the flag in the ground, the flag's in the ground. Yep. If I said to my youngest son, look, eat your apple and I'll take you to Disneyland. We're going to go to Disneyland. If he doesn't want to eat his apple, regardless if it's Disneyland or a trip around the world or a bucket of ice cream, he's not eating his apple. So there was a part of me like that too as a kid. And then there's elements of me that my kids are completely opposite of me.
How about Sara?
Same thing. I mean, Sara was very driven as a child. She's very driven now. But as a child, she was very, very driven. She had a lot of leadership qualities early on. And my kids are okay not being leaders. Then, not all of my kids are leaders. None of my kids, I think, necessarily might be a leader. And that's so, it's all, like I said, they're on their own journey. And you have this movie in your head about what you think your kids are going to be like based on the way you grew up or your own personality or where you are today. And just because I sit in this seat today, my kids, they had nothing to do with that. They had nothing to do with that journey. So from 0 to 40, they weren't even in my life. Mm-hmm. So they start with a completely blank slate and a blank piece of paper. And then they write their own script, and you give them some of the paint, but they're going to write their own script.
So you started having kids at 40. At that time, you had already checked a lot of boxes. How did your process in checking these boxes, business, spiritual, physical goals, change once you had, I know one kid is different than having 4, but like the evolution of your process in achieving your goals?
As your life changes, your life system changes. So all the things that I wanted to do, what I was doing when I was 40, running marathons, maybe I was starting a business, maybe I was writing a book. There's only a certain amount of time. Let's say this is your time. Mm-hmm. And then all of a sudden you have a kid, you have all these responsibilities, and it keeps growing and growing and growing and growing. But your time stays, that's not going to really change. It's 24 hours in a day. So as you evolve, your life system has to, as you change, your life changes, your life system has to change. So I had to eliminate some certain things to create more time to put more kids on my plate. And that's what I did. So someone was telling me yesterday about this college scandal that's happening with the SAT scores or whatever, and that they grounded all these big airplanes or whatever. I had no idea what they were talking about because I've eliminated pretty much all TV. You know, there's sacrifices.
Yeah. Yeah. Oh gosh. So actually thinking about screens, I know how's your life changed with the introduction of social media? You've become so prevalent, at least in the world that I'm familiar with, in big part to social media. And I'm sure you spend a lot of time on your phone. So grateful for you to interact with me online. Does that change your perspective on devices and how they impact your kids or just kids in general?
Yeah, I mean, like I said, the world's changing, the life system's changing. My kids are too young to be on social media. Mm-hmm. So I think I'm going to have to, my wife and I will put together a strategy and a plan around that when the time is right. Right now, we're going to delay it as much as we can. I guess my 9-year-old will be the first one. I'm sure he's going to start asking about that. I mean, he's already hinted to stuff like that, and he has an iPad. You know, he has all stuff. He has access.
Yeah.
But it just opens. It's dangerous. It's dangerous. It's good and it's bad. So I think, I haven't really put a lot of thought into the parameters and the guidelines, but I will. But at the same time, I don't think you can say no, because then it'll just make them more eager. And so we'll figure that out. But for me, it's the same thing. It's designed to be super addicting. It is super addicting. And, every once in a while, I am aware of the power of it. And I take personal inventory around, am I abusing that, or am I staying within the proper lanes and limits? But for me in my business, it's a big part of it. So it's a form of communication. It's a form of marketing. It's a form of messaging and branding. It's the cheapest, best, most effective way to get information to people that I think could be beneficial. So I've adapted it.
Yeah. So with you and Sarah's position now, you could certainly, or I would imagine certainly, turn the key, shut it all off, and just do something else. Why have you chosen to continue to, do and take these actions, building your businesses?
Yeah. I mean, I've thought about shutting it all down. I think about it a lot. And I think there might be a time where I shut it down for a year or two. We talk about traveling. But my window, I'm 50 years old, and my window to, let's say I have 30 years left. I do have 30 years left till I'm 80. That window to be relevant in the world, to have a powerful voice, is shrinking fast. So right now at 50, with a platform and friends and pretty decent Rolodex, to shut it all down, I think I would regret that. And I think I have more in me, more to offer, things that make me feel fulfilled. Mm-hmm. So I'm not doing stuff just to chase money. That's done. I'm not gonna sacrifice my time or my family time just to make money. And by the way, that has nothing to do with me having money. Sure. I've always been like that. So I'm just as happy now. I'm no more happy now than I was when I was sleeping on 18 friends' different couches when I was starting my career. So, but I feel like I get fulfillment out of this coaching program I have, out of some of the topics that I'm covering and addressing and attacking and getting in front of, and trying to be a champion of certain things that are important to me. So that's stuff that makes me feel good. We all want the same thing. Every single human wants the same thing, and that's to feel good at the end of the day. If I didn't feel good about what I was doing, I wouldn't do it. So that's sort of kind of like my litmus test.
Actually, that's not a horrible segue for me to ask my celebrity guest question. I messaged with
celebrity guest.
Hold
on, we're bringing in a celebrity guest here.
We're bringing one in, Lewis House. He's not here, but we've been messaging Lewis. I asked Lewis if you could ask Jesse a question about parenting and family, what would it be? And Lewis was so generous as to provide one. And he said, ask Jesse when he feels the most loved.
Oh, wow. That's a really good question. I mean, this is going to sound ridiculous. When do I feel the most loved? By my kids, does he mean as a dad?
He didn't clarify. I think that just in general, in life, when you feel the most like full in your heart.
Well, I send out a tremendous amount of love into the universe, and I get a tremendous amount back. So I feel surrounded by people in my world that I care deeply about, and they care deeply about me. My whole entire life has been built on relationships, friendships, caring. I mean, like when you get a 980 on your SAT, if you don't care the most about people, you're going to be in trouble. So I really built my whole foundation around that. So I never feel like I'm out of that space. And I think that's the greatest gift that I have that's been given to me personally, to feel that way. I mean, it might sound corny, but that is how I feel, honestly. I feel like I've had a very, very charmed life. I've been very fortunate, and it's predominantly because of the people that are in my life.
I love that. I'm going to do kind of a hard pivot because I want to talk about food. I know you are working on a documentary. My mom owns an organic health food store. She started in 1990. It's a near and dear to my heart. And I know you had previously referred to it as serial killers with, potential for change. But I wondered if you could elaborate on that a little bit, why it's important to you, the ethics of it. And I know food in general is a big part of your sustainability and energy.
Yeah, I mean, I've always been passionate about food. I think that big corporations have a responsibility, especially if they control so much aisle space, so much space in supermarkets, which the cereal companies do. They have the center aisle, and they have the most valuable real estate in almost every single supermarket throughout the country. I think that comes with responsibility. And I'm pissed at not just the products that these companies are pushing out as nutrition and nutritious, but I'm pissed about the marketing and the deception around that and how they target kids. And I don't know, Tyler, I mean, how old are you?
35.
Yeah. So when you get to be 50, if you've been on earth for 50 years and you walk around every day and there's not something that pisses you off, and you don't see something that you want to stand for, it could be bullying, it could be, medications, and it could, whatever it is, and you don't speak up for it. And I'm not talking about going and marching in front of the White House with the flag or going on a food strike, but to have some kind of position about something that pisses you off. And if you have a platform and you don't take advantage of that, then like, shame on you. That's how I feel. And this is something that's important to me. Almost 50% of Americans wake up and have cereal every day in the morning. Kellogg's uses the words nutrition or nutritious over 4,000 times on their website, but they sell stuff that's not nutritious. They sell stuff that's processed, that has Roundup in it, that uses ingredients that are banned in other countries, preservatives that are known to be bad for you. And then they go and they say, this is good for a 9-month-old or a 1-year-old. And they have all these ridiculous claims and this deception. And everyone's getting overweight. Kids are ADHD. Childhood cancer is skyrocketing. It's at an all-time high. And the average American is eating 10 to 14 pounds of cereal a year, 150 bowls of cereal. There's enough cereal sold that if you line every single box up, you can go to the moon and back every year. And they're up there saying breakfast is the most important meal. This is nutrition. Start your day like this. And all the kids are getting fucked up. And I'm pissed. So anyway, not that you hit a hot button or anything, but yeah. So I want to expose some of what's going on in the industry and some of the ridiculous claims that these companies are saying, and just how deceptive they're being in their marketing strategies. Because to me, look, the CEO of General Mills, the CEO of Kellogg's, how many kids do you have?
I've got 2 kids, 3 and 4.
How old?
3 and 4 years old.
I might be wrong, but I don't think they get paid if your 3 or 4-year-old kids eat their cereal and they're more nutritious. I think they get paid if their stock goes up. And if their stock doesn't go up, they're out of a job. They're not even aligned with the health of your kids. They're aligned with their shareholders and creating value. Okay, and that doesn't mean if their cereal if it's 50% sugar and sells, they're going to Hawaii this year. And if your kid is sick, They're in Hawaii anyway. They'll just add more sugar. That's literally what's going on. And they don't care, man. They don't care. I care. I care. So when you have somebody that's a pissed off father, okay, that actually really cares and is doing something because they care versus someone that's in it because they want their stock price to go up, I'm going to bet on the guy that cares any day of the end of the week. So here we go. Me versus breakfast.
Me versus breakfast. Totally tracking with you. Is there, I know that we didn't talk about this, so sorry if I put you on the spot, but is there a resource or anything that anybody listening could go to support the cause?
Yeah. So, I mean, the best way, thank you for that. The best way is just to follow me on Instagram at Jesse Itzler, at JESSEITZLER. I post every Friday. I have a Friday post called Fake Fridays where I address some of these topics, some of the ingredients, some of the ridiculousness. But ultimately, this will culminate in a documentary, which I'm doing now. So it'll be out by the end of this year.
Well, I'm super excited to see it. I know my mom's going to be super excited to see it. So thanks for...
It's not a regular documentary. It's not. Anyone that knows of my business journey, it's not like a regular documentary. I'm doing it in a way I'm really excited about. So it's going to be pretty creative.
I have no doubt about that from following you for the last few months. I have no doubt. But thank you, on behalf of me and my family and kids that are all tracking with you. That's awesome. So over the course of your, pursuing information to put this together, how has that informed how you feed your kids?
I mean, it's had an impact. There's no Cheerios in my house. It's made me super aware and super angry. And I've learned so much. I've really taken a deep dive into the space and the category. Yeah. I mean, there are, and I will post. Well, I think one of the reasons why documentaries fall short is there's really they inform and they educate and they bring awareness, but they don't always have a call to action. And they don't always have like, well, here's the solution. Mm-hmm. So one thing I'll be sure to do is provide everybody a list of, I don't want to say things that I'm not a nutritionist, but in my opinion, what I think would be the best alternatives. If you're going to have cereal, which I have, my kids have cereal. I have cereal. Here's a list of the cereals that, I think are better. And here's the reason why. Or corporations that I think are doing things really in an ethical and proper way.
I get the feeling that they're going to retract back into being almost like craft food, the way brewery and, other things have come. They'll get to smaller companies, I hope. And I saw that you're involved in a chip. Tell me the name of the company you're involved in. I saw Ed Milet plug the chips.
Oh, Pig Out. Yeah, they're Pig Out is a company that we're involved in that sells like vegan bacon strips, basically chips. They're very good. Yeah, there's a couple of companies that I'm looking at that I want to support. I mean, there's so many amazing companies in this country, and there's so many people that do the right thing, etc. I'm just mad about the big ones that have the most power and how they choose to use that.
So
let me say one more thing about this.
Oh yeah.
General Mills or Kellogg's, okay, any of the big companies, they don't have to use food dye, yellow 6, red 40, all that stuff, blue dyes. That's not food. There's no nutritional value in that. When you ingest something like that, your body recognizes it either as nutritious food in which it goes to work immediately to distribute the goodness to your cells, or it's bad for you, and it does everything in its power to get it out of your body. Food dyes, especially some of the ones that are banned in other nations because they're deemed unsafe, are only used to make the box and the cereal attractive to your eye. The blues are blue, the greens are green. Lucky Charms the colors are vibrant, but there's no nutritional value. They don't have to use that. They can make their cereal look different colors by using, vegetable juice or different kinds of natural colorings and this and that. So maybe it's not as green or as blue, but that doesn't sell as well.
Yeah,
it's a misalignment, and that's not cool. When you're giving it and you're tricking people, you have the power to spend billions of dollars to literally brainwash people, and that's what I think is going on.
100%. The odds are stacked against us. I just with my dad yesterday trying to figure out what to do for lunch, and we said can't go to the grocery store because it's all crap. So
but they can do it. They have the power. Kellogg's has 2,000 R&D people on my team. We could put a person on the moon. We can't put a cereal on the shelf that's a little bit better than what they can do better, man.
it's just a educational campaign.
And distribution dominance.
Yeah. Well, I'm going to like and share as soon as that documentary is out. I'll get as many people as I can to watch that. No, I'm psyched about it, man. It's close to my heart. So staying kind of on that topic, Sarah's the Cheez-It queen. How do you guys have drag outs over Cheez-Its?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
And me and my wife have the same exact thing. How do you reconcile it?
I mean, my wife is a grown woman. She's one of the smartest people I know on the planet. She can make her own decisions. So that's how I handle it. She lets me eat. I only eat fruit until 12 o'clock every day, 27 years religiously. If she has Cheez-Its or whatever she wants to have, that is completely okay with me.
Yeah. Yeah. You mentioned both of you have similar traits in being, strong in your positions. So with that, when you have disagreements over maybe how to discipline a kid or how to take a particular action, how might you come to a compromise so that you can be on the same team? You have like a practice?
Rock, paper, scissors.
And that's it.
That's it. Whoever wins, wins. We do rock, paper, scissors a lot for certain things. No, we talk about it. And, that's one of the challenges of parenting is how you choose to parent. That's probably the number one top 3 issue for sure in marriages with people that have kids is, how you choose to marriage. And it's not something you address normally before you get married. Like, let's sit down and talk about if we have 3 boys and a girl, how do you want to parent them? How do you want to feed them? How much exercise do you want to give them? How often do you want to read to them? Like, we never had that conversation. And all of a sudden, boom, you go from 2 people to 6, party of 6. And all these things become real-time issues. Mm-hmm. So you have to deal with them. And, we talk about it. We carve out time weekly to talk about it.
That's beautiful. And that's my wife and I try to do the exact same thing. But when I'm talking to my 3-year-old or my 4-year-old, they don't get the logic of my genius explanation to why they should or shouldn't do something. You have any tips for me on how I can get into my kids? You should do that, shouldn't do that. What's it like trying to discipline your kids?
Well, I mean, I think just, you don't need advice from me. I think it's just, you do it by example. How can I tell my kids not to eat Cheez-Its if my wife is eating Cheez-Its? But if my wife and I don't eat Cheez-Its, then it's a much easier conversation. So you do it by example.
So with that, I'm curious, you've had the experience with Goggins, the experience with the monks. Did you have 1 or 2 takeaways from either or both of those experiences that really informed your approach to parenting?
Neither. Well, the monks aren't parents. That's for sure.
Hey, your kids aren't German Shepherds.
So as far as parenting, I didn't get a lot of tips from the monks. And Goggins, I believe, is a daughter, but I didn't go to the monastery, and Goggins wasn't in my life for parenting tips. Mm-hmm. I was seeking something completely different, but they're both provide a tremendous value and are super inspiring in their own ways and are great teachers in their own ways. So there were a lot of lessons that I learned. Look, everything that you learn translates down to your kids. So let's say I got a little grittier from Goggins, hopefully I could raise grittier kids. Maybe I learned a little bit more patience or spirituality or how to be a little bit more focused. Hopefully I can, from the monks, hopefully that will translate down. I can pass some of that down to my kids. So if I'm the sponge and I can squeeze out that juice all over my kids, great. And they were part of the rain that the sponge soaked up.
Love that. Well, I want to be sensitive to your time, so I'm going to jump into like my quick kind of rapid fire questions.
Sure.
The first one, let's say, is what is on your not to-do list as a father?
Try not to lose my temper too much. I try to I try not to react off of just emotion right away. So I'll count to three. I'll do like that little, 1, 2, 3 magic thing. I'll count to 3. So I try not, because I'm impulsive, and, sometimes you realize it's not that big a deal that something spilled or someone didn't do this or whatever.
Yeah, that's awesome. I got to count all the way to 5. I'm impressed that you only have to get to 3.
3 Mississippis.
What's your greatest hope for your children?
That they live up to their potential. I think, a lot of times people say, oh, I want my kids to be happy. Of course I want my kids to be happy. But my kids would be happy eating ice cream and playing Fortnite all day. And that's not what I want.
Yeah.
I want them to live up to their potential and be happy.
What is the role of a father?
Unconditionally there, to listen, to support, to encourage, to love, to provide opportunities. I was just asked at a meeting recently, if you could leave your kids either a lot of money or a lot of life experiences, what would you want to leave them with? And of course, I want to leave them with life experiences. So I think part of the job of a dad is to open up the opportunity for your kids to experience as much as they can. And I'm not talking about traveling all over the world. I'm not talking about things that cost money. I'm talking about experiences with you as a dad, and experiences that they can have as individuals that you can provide.
So what's a milestone that you're really looking forward to for one or any of your kids?
I don't have milestones. I think I don't want to race ahead. Milestones are like, I hope when they're 18. I don't want them to be 18 yet.
Yeah.
I love this moment. So I don't jump ahead like that. I'm super present. And like next year, I said to my wife the other day, we just went skiing. And, my little guys are 4. And the last day skiing, they got good. They were skiing for a week. Couldn't believe how much they learned and they progressed. And I said to my wife, I said, I just want you to know that the next time we ski, 1, 2, 3, 4 is done. There'll be 5. And 5 looks a lot bigger. 5 might not be as cute as little 4-year-old. Like, it's a different thing. And then time after that, they're 6. Now they're like much big. So I don't want to jump ahead to like, I can't wait till they can ski black diamonds. And that's a great milestone. I love right now that they got their little helmets on and they bundled up and they're falling and I got to pick them up. That's where I am right now. And that's good enough for me.
How about looking back? Any milestones that like are right up front in the memory bank of like this experience with my kid?
I have so many amazing moments.
Yeah.
Yeah. I work really hard to create those moments. But like last year, yeah, I've a ton of them.
All right. So if you were writing a book about being a parent, what would be the name of some of the chapters?
Help. Help. I need a lifeline. Can I please sleep till 9? Do it yourself would be a chapter. Do it yourself.
Yeah.
It's a big thing. Like my kids ask me, can I go get them water? And I'm like, no, go get your water. You don't need me to get you water. So do it yourself would be a chapter. Probably let the ball hit them in the face would be a chapter. Get outside would be a chapter. Live to your potential would be a chapter. Never lie would be a chapter.
Great one. Love it. I know you said you don't watch much TV, but no doubt you have some memories of who's one of your favorite television dads?
Maybe Mr. Cunningham from Happy Days is a good dad. Who else was a great dad? Was Mr. Brady a good dad? I don't know.
I don't know.
Huh. When I was watching TV, I wasn't watching shows like that. I was watching Batman, Knicks games. I wasn't focused on the family dynamic. Trying to get away from it.
This is one of my favorite questions that Tim Ferriss asks his guests. He calls it the billboard question. If you're on 95 or what goes through Atlanta, 85 and you've got a billboard and all the dads are going by 90 miles an hour and they get to glance up at your sign, your one piece of advice that you could fit on it to all dads, what might you put on that billboard?
Show up.
Love that. Love that. So this will be my last question. Second to last question, forgive me. What kind of dad would you like to be remembered as?
Someone that was always there. I want to be, that always there at events, always there when my kids needed something, someone that just cared. Yeah, I don't, I don't think about that, like what I want to be remembered as, because the reality is one day I won't be here.
Mm-hmm.
I just try to be here. And then however I'm remembered. But I have a pretty good idea of how my kids feel about me now. If something were to happen to me, knock on wood, tomorrow, and I look back, I would be like, I wouldn't have any regrets about how I was with my kids. I have a pretty good sense of what my priorities are, my priorities are.
Well, and I'll call this one my last question. You've got a lot of audio recordings and video recordings of you. And in the event this one survives for generations, that your kids get to hear a message from you. And I know it's on the spot, but just off the top of your head, what kind of message might you deliver to your great-great-great-great-grandchildren?
Oh, Tyler, man, you heard. Listen, I didn't come on here to get emotional. Since I've had kids, I cry at everything.
Oh, yeah.
Everything. Like every news story that's hard, everything. That's a good question. What are some of the other answers that you got?
Well, they range anything from like just kind of very practical advice to just the expressions of love, little tidbits here and there of things I had, what worked for them. Some of them are very family oriented.
I hope I live my life in a way that, I hope I get enough time here, but I hope I live my life in a way that I wouldn't have to leave a message, that it would just be passed on of, kind of how I made everybody feel and how how I treated my family and that kind of thing. I don't think I would necessarily, give advice. I think I just, I believe way more in feelings as it relates to family.
Mm-hmm.
My sons aren't going to remember. They'll remember 3 or 4 expressions. They'll remember a lot of the experiences, but obviously they'll remember how I made them feel. You've heard that before, but that's the goal.
Awesome. Well, before I go, I want to give a quick shout out to Alex and Matt, who are so helpful. You got really good people surrounding you. And thank you so much for your time. It's amazing to talk to you and get to listen to you talk about your family. I'll let you tell everybody where to find you.
Yeah, thanks for having me. I appreciate it. I know we've been trying to do this for a little while, and
it's awesome.
I got kids, so I'm glad we were able to connect. Yeah, I'm on Instagram at Jesse Itzler. My website's jesseitzler.com. And I just appreciate, being able to spend the time with you this morning and chat about our families and one dad to another.
Yeah, and let's throw some shine at mom too. Where can they find your wife?
At Sara Blakely or at Spanx on Instagram, but at Sara Blakely, Sara Blakely, Blakely.
Love it. Thanks so much.